So, to add to what I was talking about this morning, I went through and I did the math. Let's start in 2013. There were 5. 2014. 5. Well, like 5 what? Just wait a second. I'm getting to it. 2015. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 2016. 2. We're back to 5. 2017. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there were 7 teams that missed the playoffs this year that made them last year. Now, of course, the big question mark becomes 2018. And there are a lot of teams that you could look at and say, well, they'll miss. And if I was going to go with the potentials, here's the funny part. When I say a team is maybe a contender, there are some booms and busts. There are some teams I have in here that, yeah, they could be a contender, or they could bust right out of the playoffs. Now, when I look at 2018 and I say, okay, who's for sure in my eyes going to be in the playoffs? Anaheim, for sure, playoffs. Oilers, I can't see them slipping back out. I'm just going through the ones that were on the board. I can't see San Jose falling out. I can't see Chicago falling out. These are all Western teams. Pittsburgh's won back-to-back cups. I can't see them missing the playoffs. I just can't see Tampa missing the playoffs again. The Rangers always seem to find a way to make it. I don't think they'll be a top seed, but I think they could be a wild card. I can't see Nashville falling out. So that's 8. And Washington. And I think that's it. Now, this doesn't mean that if a team's not in those 9, that they're going to miss the playoffs. I just mean these are the 9 teams that. But even then, I could easily be wrong. San Jose, Nashville, Washington, Rangers, and maybe those are the 5 that I go, yeah, I'm 100%. But even then, Tampa missed the playoffs last year. Chicago's been out in the first round twice in a row. This was Edmonton's first time in the playoffs in over a decade. They could have regression. That'd leave it Anaheim and Pittsburgh. Making the playoffs in the NHL at 16 out of 31 teams. You have almost a 50% chance of missing the playoffs. 50. And what makes me upset is when I hear people saying, well, maybe they'll expand the playoffs. And it's usually coming from the NHL offices themselves. Well, you know, they're talking about expanding it to 20 teams. So you'll have 4 teams playing in for the last 2 spots or whatever they're going to do. That'll be 18. But they've talked about as many as 20 teams and having some kind of a mini tournament before the playoffs start. No. The playoffs should not be a slam dunk. I remember when the NHL had 16 out of 21 teams make the playoffs. The only way you missed the playoffs is if your team was absolutely awful. 500? You'll probably get home ice in the first round. The NHL right now, as much as we can tear it apart and put it back together, you could build the playoffs. And I had some teams taken off the board. And this is why I kind of get a kick out of the arguments in the comment section, because everybody's got different opinions. I could see Pittsburgh. I could see Philly. I could see the Rangers. Over here I could see Tampa, Montreal, Ottawa, and then for your wild cards, I could see it being Toronto. I could see it being Columbus. Sure. But both the Islanders. Islanders are in that hunt, aren't they? Florida's got to have a bounce back year, don't they? Buffalo can't miss the playoffs forever, can they? Hey, I don't even have Washington on this board. Washington has to make the playoffs, don't they? And Carolina, who I have said all summer, they're going back to the playoffs. The East is really, really deadly. This is part of the reason why the only team that I've really got as a rebuilder in the East is Detroit. Look at that. I don't even have Boston in the playoffs. There are so many teams here that could... There's so much boom or bust. There's boom or bust written on Toronto, Tampa. To some extent right now, Pittsburgh. With the depth they've lost, you know, they could be first. They could miss the playoffs. Either way. And then the funny part, too, is then people say, well, what if Stamkos isn't healthy? Okay. What if Austin Matthews breaks his leg in September? Toronto goes from contender to nowhere. Matthews scored 40 goals in his rookie season. Without those 40 goals, without Austin Matthews, Toronto doesn't make the playoffs. And I don't see this season as any different. Now you look out west. All right, so you got Chicago up here. You could have Minnesota in there. You have Edmonton here, Nashville, San Jose. See, I'm just grabbing random teams, and it's just as realistic. There's your wild card. There's your wild card. Oh, and by the way, I forgot St. Louis. I don't have Calgary in there. Calgary fans are mad. Winnipeg, what are they doing over here? Look, New Jersey, they're down here. You've got Vancouver. You've got Colorado. We've got Vancouver on the board twice. And there's this Vegas team down here that's, you know, missing the playoffs their first year, sure. But even in the West, where we don't have as many teams, you have 15 now and 16 in the East. 14 if you don't count Vegas as anything right now. You just say Vegas is an expansion team, we'll just set them aside. The problem with that is this team in Florida, playoff team pretty damn quick after they were an expansion team. And there are teams here that can be hopped over. You've got Arizona, Vancouver, and Colorado. These three teams can easily be hopped over by Vegas if Vegas makes the right moves. And it's not necessarily because these guys are terrible teams and that's how people are going to take it. It's because Vegas has this wide open, brand new feel to it. And expansion teams will often see players having fantastic seasons that first year. Totals we don't expect. I remember Andrew Burnett as a good example of that. And so Vegas, you know, I'm not overly impressed with what McPhee's done, but when the puck drops in October, all bets are off. And if Colorado can turn Duchesne into something that's good for their roster right now, and if Makar is ready to play, Colorado gets a lot better really quickly. Vancouver, not likely. Arizona, it all depends on the rookies. If Clayton Keller's the real deal, Arizona moves into this mix too. So, this is the thing. You have 31 teams in the league, and how many can we realistically look at right now and say, well, they're not going to be in the mix? Detroit, probably Arizona, probably Colorado, Vancouver. I'm not using probably with Vancouver. I mean, if Colorado can get a Vezina season out of Varlamov. And Varlamov's been fantastic in the past, not since they went on that run a few years back, but he can be in the mix. I don't think the New Jersey Devils are going to be in the run for the playoffs, but if you notice, I've kind of got the same 5 teams in the bottom, so I'm probably wrong. These teams, absolutely, one of them will likely be in the mix. One of them will likely make the playoffs. Edmonton and Toronto were nowhere last year. And this year, playoffs. And we all thought that Puljujarvi was going to get Edmonton there. Puljujarvi had nothing to do with it. It was some very smart moves by Chiarelli that got Edmonton into this position here. But just as easily, if Connor McDavid gets hurt like he did in his rookie season, and if Edmonton's depth is put to the test, who knows if they make the playoffs? Was Nashville on a historic Cinderella run, or are they legitimately a contender? We won't know until this year. So projecting out the playoffs, we can all part of what I love with doing this channel is that I try to talk to all 31 fan bases. The problem is, it's the off season. All 30 fan bases here, this one here, the only fan bases I know that have kind of resigned themselves to where they're at are probably these 5 here. And New Jersey feels good because they got Johansson and they picked up Hischier. They feel very good about their ability to score more goals this year. And Corey Schneider's going to have a bounce-back year. They hired Rolly Melanson as their goaltending coach. That's a fantastic move. Rolly Melanson's a very good goaltending coach. The Canucks are going to miss him big time. He has got the best out of Canucks goaltenders for quite a while, and he'll do very well in New Jersey with Corey Schneider. So I could be wrong. New Jersey could absolutely be in this mix, and Buffalo could drop to bottom 5. But why am I saying Buffalo? Because Buffalo's been down there. But if Tavares doesn't sign with the Islanders and that becomes a distraction, the Islanders could be down here. If Carolina gets off to another bad start, they could be down here. If Calgary has problems in the regular season like they did against Anaheim in the postseason, and if their goaltending isn't better with Mike Smith, they could end up down in this mix. Florida wasn't very good last year. If trading out Marchessault and Riley Smith turned out to be as stupid as they could be, they didn't trade out Marchessault. I know he got grabbed by Vegas in expansion, but it feels like a trade. Feels like they let them have Marchessault and gave them Riley Smith so that they could keep somebody. I don't understand it either. The Capitals have shed a bunch of players, and they could struggle out of the gate. There are so many pieces, and Boston absolutely, before anybody says anything, yes, Boston could absolutely miss the playoffs this year. Zdeno Chara could go back to being the Zdeno Chara he was 2 seasons ago instead of the one who finished this season, and they could miss the playoffs, especially if Tuukka Rask is still not playing very well. And, and then you're left with these 8. But again, who knows? Who knows? And now I've got 10 in the West and 8 in the East. It is so volatile. There are so many teams that can move all over the place. That's why the most I can do right now is just go, well, I think these guys are here. And I'm going to do predictions in the coming month where I predict which teams are going to finish where. And there are going to be teams that I predict that people are going to be like, you're insane. And they could be right. Absolutely could be right. Like last summer, everybody picked Minnesota, including myself, to miss the playoffs and finish near the bottom of the division. Minnesota and Colorado were finishing at the bottom of the division. They picked up Eric Stahl. Are they insane? And Nashville, I thought, was going to be first in the division. Didn't work out that way. Minnesota had a nice run and made the playoffs. So, and I could, Dallas, this could go south. If Ben Bishop gets hurt and they have to ride Leighton for any period of time, they're out. And that puts St. Louis in. Winnipeg. What if Steve Mason isn't the answer for Winnipeg in that? He wasn't the answer for the Flyers. And this is the kind of thing that I think about when I do these videos. LA's no guarantee to get better. San Jose, a year older for Thornton, and Marlowe's gone. Who knows if they have enough depth to make up for that? What if McDavid gets hurt? So there are too many variables here. I do my best to look at it and say, okay, yes, St. Louis went on a nice run. It was a nice story, but they've lost Berglund until December. And in my eyes, the team is kind of in flux. Losing Shattenkirk, yeah, they overcame that for a short period of time. Tampa Bay overcame losing Stamkos in 15-16, couldn't do the same in 16-17. There's no guarantee that defense without Shattenkirk isn't going to feel the pinch. And again, it again comes down to health. A lot of what we're talking about here comes down to who's healthy and who gets hurt, and we don't know. So it's all speculation. It's all throwing darts at a board. And you do your best to be close and to be accurate. But at any point in time, somebody's going to fall out of the playoffs that's in the playoffs. It averages 5 for the most part. 7, 2 of the last 3 years, where teams have made the playoffs that missed the year before, or made the playoffs the year before. So here's the thing. Here's what I'm going to ask. Let's just go out and say that of these teams, 7 teams that made the playoffs last season, this past season, 16-17, are going to miss the playoffs in 17-18. Who misses and who replaces them? And I guarantee, pretty damn near guarantee, there's not going to be any consensus in the comment section because there's so many variables to consider. So many variables. Because while people talk about Tampa, they were short 5 centers at one point. Ottawa, Rangers, nice runs. It's so hard to predict where things are going to go from here. Let me know what you guys think in the comments section below. Hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through, because it is the second week of July, and I'm still talking hockey multiple times a day, just as promised and advertised. And that will continue, even though I'm going back to work tomorrow. And there's a stream coming up for NHL 17 soon. It will be this afternoon, this evening if you're on the East Coast. And we'll just... I'm going to create a team, plant that team, and then see what it does. So I'm not actually going to be playing. I'm going to be watching, playing, where I'm GMing and watching, and see how my team does that I put together. And it's up. It's going to be a cross-section of players, probably a lot of young guys. I usually pick a lot of young guys. But, yeah, so thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe, though. Don't forget. Because if you forget, things happen. And as for subscribers who are saying that my videos don't show up in their subscription section, that happens to me too. That's been happening a lot with YouTube lately. Hopefully they're working on it. I don't know of a fix. I know also there was the unsubscribe feature where it was unsubscribing people from certain channels, and they weren't able to resubscribe because it picked them up as already being subscribers. So there's some strange things with YouTube. There is the notification option, which is aggravating for some people that they get notified in the middle of the night. And I never asked anybody to go for that bell option for the notification, because personally, as somebody who accidentally got notified on one channel, it can get kind of a little bit frustrating. So I totally understand that. But I thank each and every one of you for watching. The non-hungover hockey guy has his board all over the place. And this is how I see things right now. It's really all over the place. It's all speculation. I want to hear your speculation. And I'll talk to you guys again soon.